Here we are navigating between the list of courses, and we are navigating to the course viewer, and we are passing as a parameter in the path the ID of the course that we want to display here. So let's try and retrieve that ID from the URL so that we can perhaps go fetch details about that particular course. So how do we do that? So to do that, in the course viewer constructor, right? And if we go to the course viewer here, right? What I'd like to be able to do, when we are rendering this course view, the details for this course, this particular course, we would like to grab a hold of the URL. So we're definitely rendering this course viewer, right? This is the course viewer. We want to grab that ID, right, and see if we can go fetch details about that course. So first, let's see if we can grab that. So to grab that, we're going to be using a service that describes the current route, right? We know that the router, we know that the one that is currently active is this route, right? The one that maps to details and course ID. We know that this is the current route that is triggered, right, and it's active. So we'd like to be able to ask, hey, give me some information about the current active route, right? Because one of the things I like to do is retrieve that placeholder, the value for that placeholder. So to do that, in our source, in our course viewer, we can ask for a service that does just that, right? We can say, hey, give me a information about the current active route, right? And so there is a service called activated route, right, that keeps track of the information about which is the current route that is activated, and it's injected. It's like auto-wired into our constructor, and then from our lifecycle function, the on init, we can use that route to retrieve information. So for instance, we can say this.route. So this.route provides information about what are the current parameters in that URL. What is the actual URL? What is the component that we're rendering? Does it have any children? Is there a hierarchical construction of that component? I mean, there's lots and lots of things. In particular, we want to know the parameters, right? We know that the outlet has parameters in it, paths. So we want, and you can have any number of parameters. You can have lots of parameters, right? They all start with colon, and they would be all generated, or provided to you through the activated route in the parameters. Parameters is going to be a map. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to subscribe to changes in that parameter, right? Because it could be that you select one course or another course. So this ID is going to change over time, right? This ID will be different for different courses. So that's ONU. If I click on another course, it'll be 87FG, right? Or it will be QZI or whatever, right? So it's going to change over time. So I'm going to look at the parameters. I'm going to subscribe to changes in those parameters, right? Whenever it changes, I want to be notified. This is the equivalent of in React of using, for instance, component did update, right? Component did update gets invoked every time some property changes over time, and we get notified. So here, the way we do it is that we're going to subscribe. We subscribe to changes in the parameters, and whenever it changes, we're going to be notified. The following function is going to be invoked, and we can subscribe here and provide a callback, and that callback is going to receive the current map of parameters, which we can then use however we want. In particular, we would like to parse out the course ID, right? The course ID which is encoded in the URL, right? And the name is course ID. We're going to copy it into a local variable with the same name. We'll call it course ID. It doesn't have to be called the same, but it's easier to keep it straight in your head. We're going to say that the current course ID, we're going to copy over from the parameters course ID, right? So this is that name, right? This right here matches this right here in the path, right? Whereas this matches my local variable. So I'm just copying it locally, right? So once I have that, we can go back to our HTML and verify that indeed, we got a hold of the course ID, right? So if we go back and re-render this, notice that if I refresh, notice that indeed I'm grabbing the ID of the course, right, from the URL and I copy it into the HTML. Notice if I go into a different course, we are indeed grabbing that ID. See that? Excellent.